Good morning, Commodore fans. Alongside Joey Dwyer, I'm Billy Derrick, and we are live from Winston-Salem here at Allegacy Credit Union Stadium for Vanderbilt and Wake Forest. Joey, we're about, still 2 hours away from kickoff, so we got plenty of time, but we are live here for our last-minute thoughts. And Joey, beautiful facility, first off. This is, I think, what Vanderbilt envisions for the future of their stadium. Maybe not the exact same, but this is a wonderful facility that Wake Forest has.
Right, and it feels fitting. The stakes are high today for Vanderbilt, and it feels nice on this stage as Vanderbilt kind of envisions this maybe looking like its future in terms of what its stadium looks like. It could take a step towards what it wants to be as a program today. It feels like one of the bigger games of the Clark Lee tenure. I'm not ready to say it's the biggest game, but if Vanderbilt wants to be bowl eligible, this feels like a game that it has to get, and Vanderbilt has its first big test today. How it steps up to the plate and how it rises to the occasion today will determine a lot of its future outlook this season. And excited to see that kind of progress throughout the day. It feels like a big game and maybe the biggest that Vanderbilt will have this season, especially this early on.
Joey, let's start with Derrick Wright. He's going to play today. Pete Thamel of ESPN reported that Derrick Wright is a full go today, and they're not going to hold him back at all. Derrick Wright's going to go, and we talked about this week in the podcast. If Derrick Wright can go, we're a lot less concerned, right? But if he can't go, the concern level rises. So for Vanderbilt to have Derrick Wright back is huge.
Right, and it feels like, especially today against Wake Forest's explosive offense, Derrick Wright is the most important player on this Vanderbilt defense, and it's kind of yet to be seen whether he'll play every snap, whether he'll be on a strict count, whether he'll be on more of a lenient count. Maybe he only plays on obvious passing downs, but it's hard to know what that is with Wake Forest and kind of its RPO type attack. So be interesting to see the impact Derrick Wright has and how healthy he really is, but it's a huge addition for Vanderbilt today, as well as the addition of Darren Agu back in the lineup. Vanderbilt is really healthy defensively, probably for the first time this season, especially if Derrick Wright can go in full. But it feels like he is Vanderbilt's most important defensive player, particularly today, and will have a huge impact on this game. I don't know if Vanderbilt is able to stop the passing game without him. I don't know if Vanderbilt is able to stop the passing game, the explosive plays with him, but it certainly gives Vanderbilt more of a chance than having Jalen Mahoney kind of play out of position and having him play two positions. Derrick Wright is a huge piece to this defense, and today his impact will certainly be felt.
All right, Joey, let's go. Let's start with offense. A.J. Swann, we've talked about, I don't want to say pressure, but, he's got a lot of responsibility today. We said that he needs to play great, right? He needs to play one of his best games of his career and maybe his best game of his career for Vanderbilt to win today. And if you're Coach Lee, you expect that from him, right? As a head coach, this is why you brought A.J. Swann to your program, for games like this on the road in a game where it could be a swing game for the rest of this season, right? If Vanderbilt gets this win, they're 3-0, heading to Vegas against UNLV, and it's a lot easier to get to 6 if you get this win, right? So the pressure is on. I don't want to say the pressure's not on, because there is pressure on AJ, but you mentioned in your things to watch, he can rise to the occasion, but he's got to go out there and do it.
Right, A.J. Swann has been on the big stage before, and Clark Lee has loved what he's seen from him in those kind of moments. I've asked him in week 1, can he rise to the occasion for a game like Hawaii on the big week 0 stage? Clark Lee said, yeah, that's what he does. A.J. Swann rises to these moments and plays better. Today is a whole nother level. It feels like the game early in the morning for college football today. Yeah. Feels like maybe a game that could be a turning point for Vanderbilt, and A.J. Swann has to rise to the occasion. And he's going to really embrace the identity of what this Vanderbilt team is. Can Vanderbilt go out and win a shootout? I don't know that yet, Billy. You don't know that either. We haven't seen it do it. Can Vanderbilt, when it gets punched in the mouth a few times, respond? Can A.J. Swann, after a big hit or a mistake, bounce back and fight through adversity today? I think that's the big question with him. We know that A.J. Swann has all the arm talent in the world, but can this be a turning point for him into turning that into consistent performances? We'll see, Billy. I think today is a game that could really be a turning point for him, though. And I think really what to watch for is whether A.J. Swann can get help from his playmakers. You have to have guys like Cedric Alexander and Patrick Smith, Jaden McGowan, maybe Junior Sherrill, I think could play a little bit more today. Kind of making plays in space and helping out the quarterback. Can A.J. Swann's veteran O-line go and protect him? I think there's a lot around A.J. Swann today that will determine his success, but also it's on him to rise to the occasion today, and it's on him to kind of step up and embrace this moment.
Joe, you look back at the Northern Illinois game, at least I do, and this kind of reminds me of that, right? It's not a very intimidating environment. Nothing against Wake Forest. I mean, it'll be sold out. It'll be fun. But this isn't Georgia. This isn't Tennessee. This isn't Alabama, right? So you can sort of settle in early and get going. All right, let's go defensively. We mentioned Ricky Wright is back. He's a full go. Darren Agu is back. And you would expect a guy like C.J. Taylor to have a big day. You know, Kane Patterson and the other safety, Jalen Mahoney. So I look at the middle of that defense, right? The front seven, led by Issa Wataha up front, Devin Lee, guys like that. Linebackers, Kane Patterson, Ethan Barr, anchor, C.J. Taylor. But Joey, the boundaries, right? That is today's game. That's the key to the game. Can Vanderbilt, they're not going to stop Wake Forest at their receivers outside, but can they negate them, right? Can they do certain things to not allow Griffiths to just sit back there and dice up their defense? That's what I'm looking for. Can they get pressure? Can they make Mitch Griffiths uncomfortable, right? And that'll help out the corners because the corners will need help today.
Right, they're going to be tested all day long, and I think Vanderbilt's going to throw some blitzes out there to try to kind of negate that. You saw a little bit of blitzing last week, but I think Clark Lee has a lot of that up his sleeve today that he's kind of been holding off, and I expect offensively for them to show some things that aren't necessarily on tape yet as well. But I think the pass rush and the blitz is really important in this game, and that might not even be enough. It has to be a complete group effort on the defensive side. And it starts with Darren Agu coming back and generating some pressure. He can't be the only guy, though. It has to be Nate Clifton. It has to be the guys on the inside making plays. Vanderbilt has some versatility in there now with Agu on the edge. Is that enough, though? We'll see. It's not about getting 1 or 2 sacks here. It's about sustaining pressure throughout the night. And maybe not the night, maybe the morning. But it feels like Vanderbilt has to come ready on the defensive line, has to make Griffiths uncomfortable. And I think that's the big key today is just making him uncomfortable. The numbers don't have to be great, but he can't just sit back there all day and make these explosive plays. I think that's the key to the explosive plays not happening is obviously guys containing on the edge and doing all the things that work in the secondary, but also the pass rush is huge today. I think we kind of know what Vanderbilt's defensive backs are outside of the Martell Height maybe taking a little bit of a step forward today. Defensive line has to help him out, though, and it has to be complementary football, not only on defense but also on offense. I'm excited to see what Vanderbilt does in terms of stuff that's not on tape today, and I'm sure we'll notice a little bit of that.
All right, Joey, before we finish this up and head to the booth, let's do an activity. Vanderbilt wins if blank. I'll start. Vanderbilt wins today if they sack Mitch Griffiths 4 times, right? I talked to Connor O'Neill early this week on the podcast, and he said if Vanderbilt can pressure Griffiths, make him uncomfortable, make him get rid of the ball a little bit later than he wants to, make him hold the ball long, he thinks Vanderbilt has a chance, and I agree with him. He said 3 to 4 sacks. I'll say 4 sacks. Maybe a guy like Darren Agu gets in there and gets a sack. Maybe C.J. Taylor. Maybe an interception from a guy that we haven't seen yet. We saw Nate Clifton's interception last week. Who knows? But they have to get pressure on Mitch Griffiths. I think that's the number one key to the game, because if they don't, then there's no hope for the corners, right? You have to make Mitch Griffiths uncomfortable. So, Joey, I'll say Vanderbilt wins today if they sack Mitch Griffiths 4 times.
I'm going to go with more of a cliche coach's answer. I'm going to quote Jerry Stackhouse here and say, if Vanderbilt proves it knows how to win, it will win this game. And what I mean by that is, can Vanderbilt get punched in the mouth and come back and make a play to kind of negate what just happened? If Vanderbilt goes and gets scored on 2 drives in a row early and is down 14-0, does it quit or does it respond to adversity and show kind of the culture that Clark Lee has built into this program? If Vanderbilt gives up a couple touchdowns late and lets Wake Forest back in the game after leading, does it have enough in the tank to go and prove that, hey, we can win this game, we're ready for this moment? Does Vanderbilt rise to the occasion and prove that it knows how to win today? It's cliche, Billy, but it's important. It's whether Vanderbilt rises to this stage, whether Vanderbilt can rise to kind of the level that this program needs to be at. And that's not a sunshine and rainbows game like Kentucky or Florida where it feels like things kind of bounce your way. Can Vanderbilt overcome adversity and find a way to win this game even if it doesn't have its best? I think that's my biggest question surrounding this program, and it'll prove a lot today if Vanderbilt can do that and go out and come with a win.
Big day. Big day for Vanderbilt fans everywhere. Big day for Clark Lee and this program. Kickoff at 10 a.m. Central Time right here at Allegacy Credit Union, Federal Credit Union Stadium, whatever it's called, here in Winston-Salem. 10 a.m. Central Time on the ACC Network. Joey, we're almost ready for kickoff. Thanks for taking the time.